Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Transformers Toys, the show where myself and Andy sit around talking about Transformers toys because that's what we like. On today's episode, we are looking at Hasbro's latest offering in the world of combiners. So this week we are going to be taking a look at Scrapper, and next time we are going to be taking a look at Bone Crusher. Andy, we have two of the Constructicons now. We have all six. They are out there in terms of images and things like that. We finally know what the Constructicons look like. Let's start with the pseudo leader. Hook's always been my guy, to be honest, though. But let's start with Scrapper. You've got him in robot mode. Why don't we start there? Tell us a little bit about what you think about him in robot mode.
So the Constructicons, original combiners. When you were getting these Studio Series 86 versions, I think a lot of people wanted to see something a bit more different to Combiner Wars. What we actually got, in my opinion, is more of just a downscaled version of the Combiner Wars toys. Very similar,
Mm.
really, to me, but with a bit more articulation. Elbows is always a good thing on a modern toy for a start, and Scrapper finally has elbows, which is great. Um,
Unless, of course, you went ahead and bought the Takara version of the
well,
Combiner Wars set, which was weird.
exactly. If you were a Takara collector,
Mm.
and obviously better
Then
with
elbows on a scrapper would be nothing new to you.
exactly, you'll be used to that kind of thing. Scrapper's my favorite, so I'm always a little bit biased because Scrapper is my favorite
Mm.
Constructicon. He was the only one I owned as a child. Not really sure why, but I just know that he was the only one I owned as a child, and I still have my childhood Scrapper. So I'm always going to be slightly biased towards liking him because it's Scrapper. So for me, yay, here he is. But there's not so much for me massive issues with the toy. I think the toy is fine. For me, I suppose the issues come more around what he's classified as, which is a Voyager figure. And I think you had a point
Yeah.
to make about this, didn't you, Dave?
Yeah, definitely. So I am 100% in agreement with you. I think he's a great toy. He's a great, fun toy. Now, I have him in vehicle mode, and what I will say is that in vehicle mode, he does exactly the job that any scrapper should do. There's a little bit of playability in the front in regards to his dump truck. He rolls very nicely. He is good. There is one problem that I have with him, however, in vehicle mode, which is not a problem per se with him, and this is just a personal preference in terms of the Constructicons, and that is when it comes to the Constructicons, unlike the because the Predacons have this same problem, so I'm not going to say this is an issue specifically with the Constructicons, but the Predacons to some extent, because they're not scrambled city combiners, it means that when they were built basically around the combined form. So Devastator has a unified color scheme. Devastator is green or sometimes yellow, depending on which generation he's floating around in. But as a result, what you have here, as opposed to the white plane, the red plane, the black plane, or the grey truck, the yellow car. What you have is green, 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 and green, and that is green. There is a little bit of purple plastic underneath shining through, but when he's in vehicle mode, he just cries out for some stickers.
Yeah, some decals would be
You
nice,
know,
wouldn't
yeah. And that's just been always a personal thing for me when it comes to the
they?
Constructicons. And look, I genuinely do wonder, like, how many people will display these once they've got all six actually in robot mode or in vehicle mode. But when it comes to vehicle mode, and if you are one of those very few people, I suspect, who do display their Transformers in vehicle mode purely because of the space that it would take up, well, there's nothing really to this guy, to be honest. There's, like I say, a little bit of playability. But yeah, overall, his robot mode is where it shines, and I do like it if it was 24.99, but
Yeah.
it's not.
No, no.
So I suppose this is where we get on to the sticking point of, is this worth an extra £10
Yeah. Uh, so obviously it's Voyager price point, sold
for
as a
this?
Voyager figure, and there's the reason, as far as I can see, why. Yeah, it's because you get
Mm,
Devastator's gun. Um, and I don't. I mean, personally, for me, it's not enough to justify it being £30. I can't even
no.
say the engineering on it is, especially with Studio Series. I think some of the engineering on some of the Studio Series figures has been absolutely exceptional. You know, the things they've
Mm,
done for a lot of the figures has been really great. This isn't bad. It's just it doesn't feel like a £35 figure um, at all. Really, it just feels like
no.
a deluxe that's come with an extra accessory, and they've charged us an extra £10 for it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, which I again, I don't want to sound really negative because I do like him, and I do like the figure. And if somebody said to me, should I get it? I would say yes, but I'd maybe say wait and see if you can get it a bit cheaper if the price drops. That would be probably what I might advise, unless you're an absolute Constructicon nut. If you love the Constructicons, you have to have them. Well, then you're a bit like me and Dave, and you're going to get them anyway. That's just the way it is.
Sucker is written on the forehead. Like, yeah.
Oh, Hasbro
And that's
knows.
it. Like, I've made no bones about the fact that my favorite combiner team is the Stunticons. Like I might not even put the Constructicons like in my top 5 combiners, but they are the first. They are the iconic ones. They're the ones that appear in Transformers the movie. It's just kind of the team that you have to get. One thing that I will say in regards to the fact that he's £35 and that he comes with this gun, which I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't think is very good. I mean, certainly we'll have to wait until I have Devastator so I can see how it scales. Yeah, I know there's pictures out there and stuff like that, but there's nothing like having it in hand. But it just doesn't look particularly great to me, and it certainly isn't worth the added price point. But in regards to like the fact that they're charging this much, if it was the case that this figure, and when I say this figure, I mean the Constructicons in general, were doing something new, I would be much more excited, I think. And I think that comes off the back of the fact that what we are getting now with the Scramble City combiners is a new form of combiner.
Yeah,
They are not scramble. Well, let's rephrase that. They are scrambled city combiners in the sense that you can rearrange them into a different combination of the same character. You can swap the arms around, you can swap the in that sense they're still scrambled city, but the fact that the leaders now come with a unique torso and legs which allows them to combine, it's different, it's something new that we've not had in the 40 plus years of the brand. You can't do that with Devastator in the same way that you probably can't do it with Predaking. It's just not going to happen. And so it's like in in one respect, it's like, it's not going to do anything special. But then on the other side of things, it's like, but it is Devastator.
yeah, yeah. And
You
that's the thing, isn't it? It's the fact of the matter is because it is Devastator, because Devastator is iconic. You know, a lot of us are going to be getting this. It's interesting that
mm,
on some of the websites that I looked on or have been looking on recently, that I think Bone Crusher is the one who sold out rather than Scrapper, and Scrappers have tended to be in stock. I don't know if that's just that the stock for the Scrappers was coming through and not much of the Bone Crusher stock had come through. But I know these are in places like Smith's now, the first of the first two Constructicons.
mm.
So yeah, I, if you're happy to pay
It will
£35
be.
for a small Voyager, then I say go for it. You know, If you're like
It
me
will
and you.
be very, very. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, 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 no. Go on.
I was just going to say it would be really disappointing if people are like, well, Scrapper's £35, Bone Crusher's £24. I'll buy Bone Crusher to see what they're like before I make the decision as to whether or not I'm in for all six. Because if you've done that, well, we'll save that for the next episode.
Yes. That's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Do you recommend it,
So
Denjo?
I guess.
If somebody was looking and
Mm,
thinking, I'm not sure, they're on the fence. What would be
mm.
your honest opinion?
My honest opinion is how much do you want a complete Devastator? Do you have the Combiner Wars Devastator? Yes. Do you want to display your Constructicons as Devastator? Yes. Then pass.
Yeah,
Do you have a modern day Devastator? No. Do you want Devastator? Yes. Then you have to buy him.
yeah,
It's as simple as that.
yeah.
It comes down to that. Can you live without having a Devastator in your collection? Now, there are people like yours truly who originally had thoughts that I've still got the Combiner Wars Devastator. I like the scale of that guy because in my head, there's something that says Devastator should be taller because he's made of 6 bots rather than 5. So I'm happy to leave Combiner Wars Devastator as he is. And I will display these in robot mode because there are a couple of the Constructicons, including Scrapper, who I like as characters. However, that thought has been somewhat ruined a little bit by other toys that we'll talk about in a future video. Um, so yeah, that's my recommendation. It's like, do you need one? Yes, then it's the only game in town unless you want to go down the third party route, which personally is not for me. And I think you mentioned it just before we started recording. What, we're heading back into the territory of there's a Devastator around every corner now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
pick your poison, I guess.
yeah. Lots of options for people if people do want something different. Um, but obviously, if you have your own foibles about scale, then yeah, as you say, from an official point of view, only game in town, unless you're going to pick up a Combiner Wars or the Takara, was it Unite Warriors version? Um,
Mm,
I suppose you could try and do that on the secondary market, but yeah, I like him. I like him
yeah,
as a figure. I think he's a good figure. I think he's overpriced for what you get in the box. But as you said, if you want a complete Devastator, you're gonna have to get him, and all of the other members of the
yeah,
team, which we will wait and see how easy it is to get those.
yeah.
Pre-orders are in, so hopefully that should
Oh yes.
guarantee things. But we shall see.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to do it. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of Scrapper. Do you think he's worth the £35 price point here in the UK? I'm not exactly sure what that translates to in the US, maybe like $36, $37, something like that. What do you think of the toy? Are you in for the full six? Let us know in the comments down below, and we will catch you all next time when we talk about his partner in crime, which I suspect might not be as pleasant a conversation as this one. Say goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye, everybody.